Ambassador Sarah Chun walked through the crystal corridors of the Galactic Council Station with steady steps. Her black diplomatic uniform looked simple next to the flowing robes and gleaming armor of the alien delegates around her. But Sarah had learned long ago that in space politics, looking harmless was often an advantage. The Zephyrian Empire had called this emergency session. Their message was clear: humanity needed to accept their protection. The galaxy was dangerous, they said. Young species like humans needed guidance from the ancient and wise Zephyrians. Sarah smiled at the thought. Humanity had been exploring space for 300 years now. They had colonies on 47 worlds and trade deals with dozens of species. But to the Zephyrians, who ruled half the galaxy, humans were still children playing with dangerous toys. The council chamber was huge. Thousands of seats rose in circles around a central platform where speakers presented their cases. Today, only about half the seats were filled. Many species stayed neutral when the Zephyrians made their demands. It was safer that way. High Admiral Vextar of the Zephyrian fleet stood at the center podium. He was 12 feet tall with purple-blue skin that shifted colors with his emotions. Right now, it showed the confident gold of someone who expected easy victory. "Fellow council members," his voice boomed through the translation systems, "we gather today to discuss the protection of a young species. Humanity has shown promise, but they lack the wisdom that comes with age. Recent events prove they cannot defend themselves." Sarah listened from the human delegation box. Her team was small, just 5 people compared to the 100-strong Zephyrian delegation. But size didn't always matter. Admiral Vextar activated a holographic display. Images of space battles filled the air above his head. 3 days ago, pirate forces attacked human shipping near the Outer Rim. 7 freighters were destroyed. Hundreds of human lives were lost. This tragedy could have been prevented if humanity had accepted our protection. Murmurs rose from the assembled delegates. The Corvan representative nodded gravely. The insectoid hive mind buzzed in agreement. Everyone knew pirate attacks were common in that region of space. The human government, Vextar continued, lacks the military strength to protect their own people. Their navy is small. Their weapons are outdated. They spread themselves too thin across too many worlds. His skin shifted to a patronizing orange. Like children who refuse to listen to their elders, humans insist on independence when they clearly need guidance. More nods around the chamber. This was an old story, young species getting themselves in trouble because they wouldn't accept Zephyrian rule. Therefore, the Admiral announced, the Zephyrian Empire formally offers humanity full protection. We will station our fleets in human space. Our governors will help guide human policy. In return, humanity will provide resources to support this protection. It is a generous offer. Sarah knew what that really meant. The Zephyrians wanted to add humanity to their collection of client species. They would take control of human colonies, tax human trade, and slowly absorb human civilization into their empire. They called it protection. Everyone else called it conquest with paperwork. The chamber fell quiet as Admiral Vextar finished his presentation. Council protocol required the affected species to respond. All eyes turned to the human delegation box. Sarah stood slowly. She was only 5.5 feet tall, looking tiny next to the massive alien delegates around her. Her team stayed seated, showing confidence in their leader. Sarah walked down to the speaker's podium with calm, measured steps. "Honored council members," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the translation system. "I thank Admiral Vextar for his generous offer." She paused, letting the word hang in the air. However, there are some facts the Admiral seems to have missed. She activated her own holographic display. The images that appeared made several delegates gasp. They showed the pirate fleet that had supposedly attacked human shipping 3 days ago. But these ships weren't attacking freighters. They were burning in space, broken and drifting. "The Admiral is correct that pirates attacked our shipping convoy," Sarah said calmly. "What he failed to mention is what happened to those pirates." The hologram zoomed in on the destroyed pirate vessels. They had been torn apart by weapons fire. but not the crude energy blasters usually carried by pirates. These ships showed the precise damage patterns of military-grade human weapons. Our convoy was defended by a single human patrol ship, the UES Determination. When 23 pirate vessels attacked, Captain Martinez and his crew destroyed 18 of them in 12 minutes. The remaining 5 surrendered. Shocked whispers filled the chamber. The Corvan delegates' multiple eyes widened. Even the emotionless synthetic observers tilted their heads in interest. Sarah continued. The human casualties Admiral Vextar mentioned were indeed tragic. However, they numbered 7, not hundreds. 7 brave security officers who died protecting 2,000 civilian passengers and crew members. Admiral Vextar's skin flushed angry red. Impossible. Our intelligence clearly shows your intelligence. Sarah interrupted smoothly. Shows exactly what we wanted it to show. The chamber erupted in confused chatter. Sarah waited for quiet before continuing. You see, honored council members, the Zephyrian Empire has been testing humanity for months. They've sent pirates to attack our shipping. They've probed our defenses. They've tried to make us look weak so we would beg for their protection. She activated another hologram. This one showed communication logs, star charts, and what were clearly Zephyrian military codes. Every pirate attack in human space for the past 6 months can be traced back to Zephyrian funding and equipment. They armed criminals to attack civilians, hoping to terrorize us into submission. Admiral Vextar's skin went pale white, the Zephyrian color of shock. These accusations are ridiculous. The Empire would never— The Empire, Sarah said quietly, attacked our home. Those 5 words hit the chamber like a shockwave. Complete silence fell over the assembled delegates. In galactic law, attacking someone's homeworld was the ultimate crime. It meant total war. Sarah's voice remained calm, but every word carried the weight of absolute certainty. For 6 months, the Zephyrian Empire has funded pirate attacks against human civilians. They have caused the deaths of over 300 innocent people. They have attacked merchant vessels, destroyed cargo, and terrorized our colonies. The holographic display now showed a star map with dozens of attack locations marked in red. Every single one was in human space. But that's not all, Sarah continued. 2 weeks ago, your pirates attacked a civilian transport carrying children from our outer colonies back to Earth for school. 67 children, ages 6 to 16. Your hired criminals killed 42 of them. The chamber was so quiet you could have heard a pin drop. Several delegates looked sick. The Corvan representative actually covered his eyes with his upper arms. Admiral Vextar found his voice. Even if these wild claims were true, which they are not, pirates are not the Empire. We cannot be held responsible for— Admiral, Sarah interrupted, her voice cutting through his protests like a blade. One of the pirate ships we captured still had Zephyrian naval officers aboard. Living officers, who told us everything in exchange for medical treatment. She activated a new hologram. It showed 3 Zephyrian officers in human detention facilities, speaking clearly into recording devices. Commander Thelkas of the Zephyrian 16th Fleet, Sarah said as the hologram zoomed in on a purple-skinned alien in a hospital bed, confirmed that Operation Shepherd was designed to make humanity look defenseless. Quote, High Command wanted the humans to beg for protection after we bled them enough, end quote. Admiral Vextar's skin cycled through several colors, red for anger, orange for fear, purple for confusion. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. Sarah stepped closer to the center of the chamber. The Zephyrian Empire sent armed forces into human territory. They killed human civilians. They attacked ships carrying children. Her voice remained perfectly calm, but something cold entered her eyes. They attacked our home. She turned slowly, making eye contact with delegates around the chamber. Now, the question before this council is simple. What should humanity do about that? The silence stretched on. Finally, the hive mind representative spoke in their buzzing voice. Human Diplomat Chun. If these accusations are true, your people would have the right to respond with military force under galactic law. Yes, Sarah nodded. They would? But surely, the Corvan delegate said hopefully, humanity would prefer a peaceful solution? The Zephyrian Empire is vast. They have 10,000 warships, billions of soldiers. No single species has ever challenged them successfully. Sarah smiled for the first time since taking the podium. It wasn't a nice smile. You're absolutely right, she said. No single species has ever successfully challenged the Zephyrian Empire. She paused. But humanity isn't challenging them alone. Another holographic display activated. This one showed space near the council station. Delegates gasped and some actually stood up in shock. Surrounding the station was a fleet, unlike any seen before in galactic history. There were sleek human cruisers with their distinctive blue-white engines. Massive Corvan dreadnoughts with their crystal armor gleaming. Swift Veltar. Admiral Vextar stared at the holographic display for a full minute before finding his voice. The massive fleet surrounding the council station looked impossible. 32,000 ships from dozens of different species all working together. The Zephyrian Empire had ruled through fear and division for 1,000 years. The idea that so many races could unite was unthinkable. "This is a trick," he declared, his skin flashing angry red. "Some kind of holographic deception? No alliance this large could exist without our knowledge." Sarah Chun smiled and touched her wrist communicator. "Admiral Torres, please give our Zephyrian friend a demonstration." From the massive human dreadnought at the center of the fleet, a single beam of blue energy lanced out toward a nearby asteroid. The rock, roughly the size of a city, simply vanished. Not destroyed or shattered, completely gone as if it had never existed, the council chamber fell dead silent. That level of firepower was beyond anything the Zephyrians had ever seen. "Molecular disintegration beam," Sarah explained calmly. "A joint development project between human scientists and Veltar engineers. We've had 3 years to perfect it while your empire was busy playing games with pirates." Admiral Vextar's skin cycled through multiple colors of confusion and fear. "Impossible. The Veltar are a client species. They serve the Empire. They would never—" "The Veltar," interrupted a new voice, "serve no one." The speaker was tall and thin, with crystalline skin that reflected light in rainbow patterns. General Clixeron of the Veltar Union stepped forward from the observer section. His people were known as master engineers, but they had been under Zephyrian protection for 3 centuries. "The Empire has taken 30% of our industrial output for 300 years, Clixeron said coldly. "They told us it was payment for keeping us safe." "Safe from what? Pirates that you funded? Threats that you created?" Admiral Vextar opened his mouth to respond, but the Veltar general continued. "When the humans approached us with evidence of your deception, we were not surprised. We had suspected for decades. But they offered us something the Empire never did, partnership instead of servitude." Sarah nodded toward the crystalline alien. "The Veltar brought more than engineering skills to our alliance. They brought 3 centuries of detailed intelligence about Zephyrian military capabilities, political weaknesses, and client species who might be ready to change sides." Another figure stood in the observer section. This one was short and broad, with gray skin and multiple arms. Commander Zeftok of the Corvan Federation moved to join the Veltar general. "The Corvans have been providing raw materials to the Empire for 500 years, the multi-armed alien said in a gravelly voice. 50% of our planetary output shipped directly to Zephyrian worlds. We were told it was necessary to maintain galactic peace." His forearms gestured angrily. "But peace for whom?" "Not for the Corvan miners who died extracting metals for your warships. Not for the families separated when our best workers were drafted to serve on Imperial projects." More figures began standing throughout the chamber. 12 species, then 24. Each one represented a different member of the Human Alliance. Sarah watched Admiral Vextar's expression grow more horrified with each new ally that revealed themselves. "You see, Admiral, the Empire's greatest strength was also its greatest weakness. You controlled so many different species that you lost track of what you were taking from them. And you never imagined they might compare notes. The hive mind representative buzzed electronic words. Hive Collective was required to provide computational services to Empire. 17% of total processing capacity. Empire said this was voluntary cooperation. A Serpentine delegate from the Soraki clans hissed agreement. Soraki worlds provided foods to Empire. Best crops, finest livestock. Empire claimed this was fair trade, but prices were set by Zephyrian merchants. One by one, the client species told their stories. Forced tribute disguised as voluntary cooperation. Resources drained from their worlds to feed the imperial war machine. Young people conscripted for voluntary service that lasted decades. Admiral Vextar's skin had gone completely pale. But the Empire protects you. Without us, you would face constant warfare. Pirates and raiders would destroy your worlds. Pirates that you funded, Sarah reminded him. Raiders that you armed? The Empire created the very threats they claimed to protect everyone from. She activated another holographic display. This one showed shipping records, financial transactions, and military supply manifests. For the past 18 months, human intelligence services have been tracking every pirate attack in this sector. We found something interesting. 96% of all raids targeted ships or colonies belonging to species that had recently refused some imperial demand. Opposition leaders who spoke against Empire policies. Their homeworlds suffered mysterious pirate attacks. Trade convoys that tried to negotiate better prices, suddenly beset by raiders. The evidence was overwhelming. Financial transfers from Zephyrian banks to known criminal organizations. Weapons shipments to lawless sectors. Even detailed attack plans found in captured pirate vessels. The great Zephyrian Empire, Sarah continued, was nothing more than the galaxy's largest protection racket. Create the danger, then demand payment to make it stop. Admiral Vextar looked around the chamber desperately. Even if some of these accusations were true, you cannot seriously challenge the Empire. We have ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years. Our fleets outnumber yours 3-1. Actually, Sarah said, consulting her datapad, our current intelligence shows the Imperial fleet at approximately 11,000 active warships. The Alliance has 32,000 and growing. She looked up with that cold smile again. And that's assuming all your ships would fight against us? What do you mean by that? The Admiral demanded. Sarah's smile widened. Well, let me ask you something. How many Veltar engineers work on your ships? How many Corvin technicians maintain your weapon systems? How many HiveMind programs run your navigation computers? The color drained from Vextar's face as he realized what she was suggesting. The Empire integrated client species into every aspect of your military, Sarah continued. It was efficient. It saved money. But it also means that every Imperial ship has Alliance citizens aboard. Citizens who are no longer very happy with their employers. From the fleet displays around them, new signals began appearing. Dozens of them scattered throughout Zephyrian space. Ship identification codes were changing. Imperial vessels were transmitting Alliance recognition signals. The IES Dominion, pride of the 7th Imperial Fleet, has just declared for the Alliance, Sarah announced as the signals updated. So has the battle group at Nexus Station, and the entire 4th Colonial Defense Force. Admiral Vextar stared at the changing displays in horror. Ships he had commanded just days before were abandoning the Empire. Entire fleets were switching sides. How is this possible? He whispered. General Clixeron answered. Because the Empire forgot something important. The ships may belong to the Zephyrians, but the people who make them work belong to themselves. Commander Zeftok added, and those people have families. Families who have been squeezed by imperial taxes and quotas for centuries. When given a choice between serving their oppressors or joining their liberators, the decision was easy. Sarah consulted her datapad again. Current defection count is up to 4,000 Imperial vessels. We expect more as word spreads. Admiral Vextar slumped in his chair, his skin now a dull gray of defeat. What do you want? He asked quietly. Justice, Sarah replied simply. Full reparations for every species the Empire has exploited. the immediate release of all conscripted workers, withdrawal of Imperial forces from all client worlds, and the dissolution of the Imperial government. Dissolution? Vexstar's skin flashed shocked white. You want to destroy the Empire entirely? We want to free the galaxy, Sarah corrected. The Zephyrian people can have their own worlds, their own government, but they will never again rule over other species. The Admiral looked around the chamber at faces that had once shown him deference and fear. Now he saw only cold determination. The Empire's subjects had become its judges, and if we refuse? He asked, though he already knew the answer. Sarah's expression didn't change. Then we will remove the Imperial government by force. But I should warn you, that would be much more expensive for everyone involved. She activated one final holographic display. This one showed casualty projections, economic disruption models, and refugee displacement estimates. A war would cost millions of lives and take decades to recover from. The human preference is always for a negotiated solution. But make no mistake, Admiral, the Empire's time as a galactic power is over. The only question is whether it ends peacefully or violently. Vexstar studied the projections with growing horror. Even in the best-case scenarios for the Empire, they were facing total defeat. Their client species were abandoning them, their own crews were defecting, and they faced an alliance with superior numbers and technology. I need to consult with the High Council, he said finally. Of course, Sarah nodded. You have 48 hours to provide an answer. After that, the Alliance will begin liberation operations in Imperial space. The Admiral started to object, but Sarah continued. 47 hours and 36 minutes after Admiral Vexstar left the council chamber, the Zephyrian response arrived. It wasn't what anyone expected. Ambassador Sarah Chun was reviewing Alliance fleet positions when her aide rushed into her temporary office aboard the council station. Ambassador, you need to see this immediately. Sarah looked up from her data displays. What is it, Commander Williams? Ma'am, we're receiving a transmission from Zephyrian space. But it's not from Admiral Vexstar or the High Council? Williams activated the room's communication array. It's from someone called Prime Minister Velinara of the Zephyrian Republic. Sarah blinked in surprise. Republic? Since when do the Zephyrians have a Prime Minister? Since about 6 hours ago, according to the transmission log. The holographic display activated, showing a middle-aged Zephyrian female with bright green skin marked by silver patterns. Unlike the elaborate robes worn by Imperial officials, she wore a simple gray uniform with no decorations except a small pin showing the Zephyrian homeworld. Greetings, Ambassador Chun and honored members of the Galactic Alliance, the woman began. I am Velinara, newly elected Prime Minister of the Zephyrian Republic. I come before you to discuss the formal surrender of what was once the Zephyrian Empire. Sarah exchanged glances with Commander Williams. This was definitely not what they had expected. The transmission continued. 18 hours ago, word reached our homeworld about the Alliance ultimatum. The High Council immediately began preparing for war, as you predicted they would. However, they made a critical error. Velinara's skin shifted to a pale blue of regret. They called for full mobilization of the Zephyrian population. Every adult was to be conscripted. Every resource was to be devoted to the war effort. They declared that the Empire would fight to the last Zephyrian rather than accept defeat. The Prime Minister paused, her expression growing sad. What the High Council failed to understand is that the Zephyrian people have been watching the revelations from the Galactic Council. We learned about the false flag pirate attacks. We discovered that our government had been murdering civilians to maintain power. We saw evidence that our empire was built on lies and exploitation. Sarah felt a chill of understanding. The Zephyrian leadership had pushed their own people too far. When High Counselor Vexmar announced that every Zephyrian would die before accepting the alliance terms, something extraordinary happened, Velinara continued. Our people said no. The hologram shifted to show scenes from the Zephyrian homeworld. Massive crowds filled city streets, but these weren't war rallies. They were protest marches. Citizens carrying signs demanding peace. Workers refusing to report to weapons factories. Even military units laying down their weapons. The revolution was bloodless, Velinara explained. The High Council tried to maintain control, but their own security forces joined the protesters. Within 12 hours, the imperial government had collapsed entirely. Sarah leaned forward, fascinated despite herself. In all their planning, the Alliance had never considered that the Zephyrian people themselves might overthrow their government. The new Republic's first official act, the Prime Minister continued, is to formally accept all Alliance terms. We will pay full reparations to every species we have wronged. We will release all conscripted workers immediately. We will withdraw from all occupied territories and dissolve all client-state agreements. She paused, her skin shifting to a hopeful yellow-green. But we also wish to request something that was not in your original terms. The Zephyrian Republic would like to apply for membership in the Galactic Alliance. Sarah sat back in her chair, stunned. This was beyond anything they had planned for. The transmission continued. We understand that trust must be earned. We know that our people have much to answer for. But we also believe that the Alliance represents the kind of galaxy we want to live in, one based on cooperation instead of domination. Velinara's expression became earnest. Ambassador Shun, when you said that humans learned the difference between empires and alliances, you spoke truth. The Zephyrian people want to learn that same lesson. We want to build something better than what we destroyed. The transmission ended, leaving Sarah and her aide in thoughtful silence. Well, Commander Williams said finally. That's unexpected. Sarah nodded slowly. Contact General Clixeron, Commander Zeftok, and the other Alliance leaders. We need an emergency session. 2 hours later, the Galactic Council chamber was packed. Representatives from all 47 Alliance species had gathered to hear the Zephyrian message and decide how to respond. Sarah stood at the central podium, addressing the assembled delegates. Fellow Alliance members, we face an unprecedented situation. The Zephyrian Empire has not just surrendered, it has overthrown itself. Murmurs of amazement filled the chamber. Several delegates had worried that the war might drag on for years as Imperial loyalists fought from scattered strongholds. No one had imagined the Zephyrian people would simply remove their own government. The question before us, Sarah continued, is whether we accept the new Republic's request for Alliance membership. The HiveMind representative was the first to speak. Hive Collective calculates high probability of Zephyrian deception. Empire may be attempting infiltration strategy. Commander Zeftok S. 4 Arms gestured agreement. The Corvans have suffered under Imperial rule for 5 centuries. We find it difficult to trust any Zephyrian government. Sarah nodded understanding. Your concerns are valid and shared by many Alliance members. However, we have some additional information that might be relevant. She activated the chamber's holographic display, showing real-time intelligence reports from Zephyrian space. In the past 24 hours, the New Republic has taken several concrete actions. They have opened all Imperial archives to Alliance inspection teams. They have released over 2 million conscripted workers from 40 different species. They have transferred control of all client world governments back to local leaders. The display showed former Imperial colonies celebrating their independence. Veltar workers leaving Zephyrian industrial complexes for the first time in decades. Corvan families reunited after generations of separation. More significantly, Sarah continued, they have begun arresting former Imperial officials for war crimes. High Counselor Thexmar and 12 other senior leaders are currently in custody, awaiting trial for their roles in the false flag operations. General Clixeron stood to address the chamber. Veltar intelligence confirms these reports. The Republic appears to be genuine in its commitment to reform. However, we still face the question of whether former enemies can become trusted allies. Sarah smiled slightly. An interesting question, General. Of course, the Veltar Union was also once an Imperial client state. So were the Corvans, the HiveMind Collective, and 30 other Alliance members. 6 months ago, you might have asked whether any of us could be trusted to work together. The crystalline engineer tilted his head thoughtfully. A fair point, Ambassador. The alliance itself is proof that former enemies can become partners. The debate continued for several hours. Some delegates argued for accepting the Republic immediately. Others wanted a probationary period. A few insisted that former Imperial citizens could never be trusted. Finally, the Soraki delegate raised an interesting point. Perhaps the question is not whether we trust the Zephyrians, but whether we trust ourselves. Are we confident enough in alliance principles to help former enemies become friends? Sarah stood again. If I may share some human perspective on this issue, my species has a long history of conflict, wars between nations, wars between ideologies, wars between peoples who should have been allies. But we learned something important from that history. She paused, making eye contact with delegates around the chamber. The strongest alliances are often formed between former enemies who choose to work together instead of continuing old conflicts. Because they understand the cost of fighting, they're often the most committed to making peace work. She activated a new display showing population and resource data. The Zephyrian Republic represents 2 billion citizens and significant industrial capacity. If they're genuine about joining the alliance, they could help us build the kind of galactic civilization we all want. If they're not genuine, we have 32,000 ships and the moral authority to enforce our standards. The chamber fell quiet as delegates considered her words. Commander Zeftok was the first to speak. The Corvans are willing to give the Republic a chance. But we propose a probationary membership. Full rights after they prove their commitment to alliance values. The Veltar Union agrees, added General Clixeron. A trial period seems appropriate. One by one, other delegates voiced support for probationary membership. Even the skeptical Hive Mind Collective agreed, though they insisted on extensive monitoring protocols when the vote was complete. The result was overwhelming. 45 species in favor of accepting the Zephyrian Republic as a probationary alliance member, with 2 abstentions and no votes against. Sarah returned to the central podium. Very well. We will transmit the alliance's decision to Prime Minister Velinara. Probationary membership, with full rights pending completion of reparations and a demonstration of commitment to alliance principles. As the delegates began filing out of tea,